Is talk about the crypto market in 2019. I think 2018 was a huge disappointment and what ties to demographics. And then hopefully I'll have some time to talk about crypto as an asset class, and then of course some time for Q&A. So the best place to start is just to think about why 2018 was such a bad year for the crypto market. In some ways, 2018 was as bad a year as 2017 was a good year. So I've kind of marked that on this chart here. You can see we had an awesome 2017. Bitcoin went to an all-time high. And 2018 was really a painful year, where Bitcoin held 6,000 for most of the year. And then as we got into the final months of the year, we had the fork wars that essentially led to a systematic breakdown in confidence about the crypto market, and we had a collapse. Okay. So what made 2018 so bad? I think ultimately we could just say that expectations were too high. Crypto had a parabolic rise in 2017. You can't continue to rise parabolically, and so we had a pretty big adjustment. I think a lot of problems were also exposed last year. I think mainly there was a lot of capital raised in ICOs, and I think we saw really some of the worst of the crypto market in those ICO projects. And we had regulatory problems. The SEC in particular really kind of threw some cold water on the space. But more importantly, some of the banks instituted restrictions. It was more difficult to actually put money into the crypto economy. So let's say that takes us to the start of 2019. I think it'd be pretty normal to set a market that fell 80% and would be bearish. I think that's just normal human nature, right? If something's down a lot, you either feel really bad owning this asset, or you think other people must be right, because there has to be a reason why the market would be down so much. I just want to tell you that there's a few reasons why 2019 should be quite a good year for the crypto market. Okay, so I think one, there's history on your side, so I want to talk about some of the history arguments. But I think that there's three very important developments happening this year that weren't in place last year. And I'm going to cover those, but mainly it has to do with the macro markets turning more positive. There's a technical improvement taking place in crypto, and there's some fundamental catalysts. So let's start with history. First of all, this is the price history of Bitcoin since 2010. This is the fourth major decline. In fact, it's the longest bear market in history. But as you can see, Bitcoin has recovered every time. So the question you have to ask yourselves, is the cryptocurrency and blockchain industry so mature that Bitcoin won't recover? Just ask yourselves that. We're in the earliest stages of adoption. I don't think anything's changed. But you might want to take a look closely at that red line on the chart. See that bottom, that big red line? That's the 200-week moving average. Bitcoin's touching that 200-week moving average. That marked the low in 2015. So we're at a really critical point. This is a time when the technicals, or what you'd say price momentum, is beginning to improve. And if there's fundamental factors that are supporting that improvement, this is actually a great time to be owning cryptocurrencies and Bitcoin. So this is not a time to be dejected. This is a time to take advantage of that price decline and sort of counter to your own emotion of being either skeptical or nervous and realize this is quite a good opportunity. So why do I think 2019 will be a good year for the crypto market? Well, remember, there's two things that drive creation of value in any asset. So cryptocurrencies is no different. The first is really network adoption, right? Network value. Is this going to be adopted? Are there going to be people using this thing? And of course, we're in the earliest stages. I think that the outlook is still positive. But the second is whether the usefulness of this asset is going to grow. And I think the way we measure usefulness in our work at Fundstrat is thinking about whether enhancing the compatibility or connecting the cryptocurrency market to traditional financial infrastructure. The more that happens, the more likely that digital currencies become the new sort of financial architecture. So yes, in our view, there's a lot of things happening that are going to be positive in 2019. Now, it really comes down to three things. The first is that the macro is going to improve. And what I mean by macro is, macro refers to the idea that something is going to improve the attractiveness of blockchain and digital currencies as an asset class. Now, you may wonder, how important is macro to the performance of any asset class? In our work at Fundstrat, and I've been doing research for 25 years, we tell our clients that the macro decisions account for almost 70 to 80% of the return of any investment. Think about it this way. Making money in the stock market, 70% of the return that you get from buying Facebook is explained by a macro factor, whether it's economic, it's equity performance in general, or it's the growth of the internet. These are not company specific. And the same thing is true for the crypto market. The second thing happening this year, and I'll have some slides, is the technicals are improving. And finally, there's fundamental developments like JP Morgan Coin. So let's go through some of these macros. So the first is this chart. This chart is, the red line is emerging market equities, and the dark blue line is Bitcoin. And this chart starts in end of 2015. Now here's something interesting. Notice that whenever the red line goes up, that's the emerging market stocks, that Bitcoin tends to rise. Well, last year, 2018, I marked it in the brackets, emerging market equities were falling. And as you can see, Bitcoin fell with emerging market equities. That's simply saying that equities, whatever is happening in the stock market is going to have an effect on the crypto market. As institutions actually begin to increase their investment in crypto, it's probably going to grow in importance. Ultimately, if there's a bear market in global equities, it's going to exert some influence on the crypto market. Well, what's happening in 2019? We know that global equity markets are rallying pretty strongly. I think that this global equity rally is actually going to pull in the crypto market. Now, the other macro factor that was a headwind last year, and it's turning into a tailwind this year, is the dollar. So the light blue line is the dollar index. I've inverted the scale. So when the light blue line is rising, the dollar is weakening against other currencies. And last year, the dollar strengthened. It actually rallied 13%, and as you can see, that was a headwind for Bitcoin. Now, this makes sense. This is saying that if Bitcoin is a digital currency, it's going to be priced against the dollar. If the dollar's strong,